Okay, so picture this. You're in the Bahamas. 4 days into your anniversary trip. You've got a drink in your hand, your feet are basically in the ocean, and for the first time in like a year and a half you are actually, genuinely relaxed. Your phone buzzes. Motion alert. Home security camera. You think, delivery guy maybe. A neighborhood cat. Something boring. You open the app. And there are your in-laws. On your driveway camera. Directing a U-Haul. Moving into your guest house. With a key they copied behind your back. Now most people in this situation would panic. Call them. Freak out. Maybe catch the first flight home. My husband just looked at me, set down his drink, and said, "Get the locksmith's number." I'm Becca. And what happened next is the story I have been waiting to tell. Alright, let me just get straight into it because honestly the setup here is pretty short and the payoff is what you're here for. My husband Jake and I have been together 8 years, married for 3. We own a house in the suburbs with a detached guest house in the backyard, maybe 500 square feet, 1 bedroom, a little kitchenette. We've had friends stay there, my sister used it for 2 weeks when she was between leases, that kind of thing. It's a guest house. Not a residence. Not up for grabs. Jake's parents, I'll just call them Gary and Sheila, have made it absolutely crystal clear since day one of our marriage that they view our home as an extension of theirs. Gary comments on our landscaping every single visit like we asked. Sheila rearranges things in our kitchen every time she comes over and calls it just tidying up. They brought up the guest house at least 4 times in the past year, it just sits empty most of the time, seems like a waste, we could really use a place closer to town. Every time, Jake and I have said some version of, not available, not happening, we love you, this is not up for discussion. They heard us. They just didn't care. Jake and I left for our anniversary trip on a Saturday morning, 5 days into the Bahamas' first real vacation we'd taken together in almost 2 years. We'd been saving for it, planning it, counting down to it. We did not tell Gary and Sheila the exact dates we were leaving because honestly we didn't want the guilt trip about not visiting before we left. What we didn't know was that Sheila had, on a visit about 3 months prior, excused herself to use the bathroom and instead slipped our spare key off the hook by the back door, got it copied at a hardware store, and put it back before we noticed. We found this out later. In the moment, all we knew was what our cameras showed us. Day 4 of the trip. Jake and I are at this little outdoor bar right on the water, genuinely one of the best afternoons of my life up to that moment. His phone buzzes. Ring camera alert. He opens it expecting literally nothing. He goes quiet. He turns his phone to me. There is a U-Haul in our driveway. Gary is directing 2 guys, looked like he'd hired day laborers to help, carrying a full-size couch through our backyard toward the guest house. Sheila is standing by the truck pulling moving boxes out and stacking them on the ground like she's organizing a storage unit she owns. I looked at Jake. He looked at me. He opened the full camera system on the app and we just watched for a few minutes. Couch going in. Boxes going in. A floor lamp. A full set of luggage that was clearly being unpacked, not stored. Sheila hanging something on the guest house wall, we couldn't tell what from the angle but the gesture was unmistakably someone decorating a space they planned to live in. I wish I could tell you I was surprised. I wasn't. Not really. I'd seen this coming in the abstract for over a year. I just didn't think they'd actually do it. Jake took a breath. Then he said, very calmly, "I'm not going home early." I said, "Absolutely not." He pulled up his contacts. "Locksmith first or junk removal first?" I said, "Locksmith first. Then junk. Then finish our drinks." Here's what we handled from that bar in about 45 minutes. Jake called our locksmith, the same guy who installed our deadbolts when we moved in, solid dude, responsive. Jake explained the situation. Unauthorized individuals had accessed the property using a copied key, we needed all exterior locks changed immediately including the guest house, and our neighbor Tom across the street had a key and would let him in through the front gate. Locksmith said he could be there in 2 hours. Jake gave him Tom's number and his card. I texted Tom, who is retired, has cameras of his own, and had already texted me 20 minutes earlier asking if we were expecting some kind of delivery, and gave him the full picture. Tom, bless him, said, "Oh, I'm absolutely available for this," with the energy of a man who has been waiting for exactly this kind of neighborhood drama. Then we called a junk removal company we'd used before. Explained that items had been placed in our guest house without authorization and we needed them removed and placed at the curb. They said they could be on site within 3 hours and asked if someone would be there to point out what needed to go. We told them our neighbor Tom would walk them through it. I texted Tom again. Tom said, "Consider it done," and I genuinely think he was delighted. Then we ordered another round and watched the cameras. The locksmith arrived first. We watched on camera as he worked on the main house locks, then moved to the guest house exterior door. Gary must have heard him because he came outside, stepped out of the guest house to ask what was going on. The second Gary stepped out, the locksmith finished the guest house lock cylinder. Gary tried the door. Didn't open. He tried it again. Then he knocked on his own reflection in the door glass like that was going to accomplish something. Sheila came out and tried it. Also no. They looked at each other and then Sheila looked directly up at the guest house camera. Jake waved at his phone screen. They clearly could not see him but it felt right. The junk crew showed up about an hour later. Tom walked them through the guest house. He had our full written list by a text of what was ours versus what Gary and Sheila had brought, and they were methodical and fast. Couch out. Boxes out. Floor lamp out. The luggage, the wall hanging, the kitchen stuff Sheila had apparently already started unpacking from her own cabinets, all of it came out and went to the curb. Gary argued with the crew. The crew was professional and unmoved. They explained they were contracted by the property owners and that any questions should go to the owners directly. Gary called Jake. Jake answered the conversation as Jake told it. "Gary, this is insane, Jake. You need to call these people off right now." Jake, "No. Everything you brought needs to go. You're trespassing." Gary, "We were just trying to." Jake, "You copied our key without asking. You waited until we were out of the country. And you moved your stuff into our house. That's not trying to help, Gary. That's a break-in." Silence. Jake, "Load your things and leave. Don't call again tonight." He hung up. We sat there on that bar stool at the edge of the Bahamas for a second. The cameras showed the junk crew finishing up. Gary and Sheila loading what they could salvage from the curb into their car in the fading light. Then Jake picked up his drink, looked at me, and said, "Happy anniversary." I laughed until I cried a little. The good kind. We finished the trip. All 5 days. We came home to a house with new locks, a guest house that had our original furniture in it and zero trace of Gary and Sheila, and a neighbor who had left a casserole dish on our front step with a sticky note that said, "Welcome back, heroes." Gary has called twice since. Jake answered once, kept it short, made it clear there would be no access to our property until there was a genuine conversation about what they did and why it can't happen again. That conversation has not happened yet. We're in no rush. Sheila hasn't called. Sheila is doing the silent treatment thing, which, honestly? Rest. I'm not mad. The spare key situation has been permanently resolved. New locks. Smart locks now on the guest house with unique codes for approved visitors only. Tom got a very nice bottle of bourbon. And Jake and I? We're already planning next year's anniversary trip. Different location. Same security app. Some lessons you only have to learn once. Gary and Sheila waited for the plane to leave. They copied the key. They rented the U-Haul. They actually thought that by the time Becca and Jake got home, it would just be the new reality, too settled to undo, too awkward to fight. What they didn't count on was cameras. What they really didn't count on was a husband who doesn't argue, he just acts. Becca and Jake didn't cut their anniversary short by a single hour. They sat on bar stools at the edge of the ocean, made 3 phone calls, and watched the whole thing resolve itself on a 4-inch screen. Gary knocked on a locked door that used to be open to him. That's what crossing a line actually looks like when someone finally holds it. So, jury, did they handle this exactly right? Or should they have called Gary and Sheila first and given them a chance to leave on their own? And real talk, have you ever had family treat your home like it was theirs? Because I have a feeling this comment section is about to get very honest very fast. Drop your verdict below. The floor is yours.